Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I have a rather entertaining article from Slam Wrestling. How to attempt to win women over with WWE Wrestling. This was actually published November the 23rd, 2024, but it missed, it slipped through the cracks, but I have found it. This one is actually entertaining. All right. I didn't even finish it because I saw some things in here and just immediately started laughing. So, what is this thing about? Well, the title kind of says it all. He wants to try to win a woman over using WWE. So he's talking about, he says, if you're like me, getting anybody to come and see the appeal of professional wrestling live can be a challenge. In my case, the challenge always runs the gamut of the following. It's scripted. I prefer real sports. You know it's fake, right? The last one I typically reply with yes, but then again, so is your marriage relationship, and you buy into that BS. Oh, you know this is going to be cringe. Oh, this is pure uncut cringe. That usually happens around February or anytime I'm in Provo, Utah. After a few shots of mezcal flood my medulla oblongata. So he gets drunk and starts talking to people about wrestling. This guy's a super nerd. He said, this last Friday, I had a conversation with my friend and life coach, Reed, bartender. He's having a conversation with a bartender. She called me up out of the blue and wanted to know about any local wrestling shows coming up. The last time we did that, we went as part of our support group, dubbed Team No Kids. Oh. Team No Kids going to watch a wrestling show. Oh. I'm sorry. Oh boy. The last time we did that, we went as part of our support group. As part of our support group dubbed Team No Kids. And we went to see the local independent Devotion Championship Wrestling. Devotion Championship. Oh my God. Okay. I let her know that there were shows at a couple of promotions coming up in December. But then I realized I had an extra ticket as WWE provided me to cover SmackDown that evening at the Delta Center in downtown Salt Lake City. I asked if she was down to see a big event, and to my surprise, she said yes. I just happen to have this extra ticket, and you just happen to be asking me about pro wrestling. Huh. How fortuitous for me. So, he says, at this time, allow me to speak to the men. I know getting women involved in pro wrestling is equally challenging, like wrangling cats, or even watching the musical Cats. Lord knows my batting average in that area is somewhere in the single digits. Thankfully, the few women who have deigned to hang out with me in such pro wrestling events are usually adventurous, open-minded, and the right amount of screwball that makes for a pleasant affair. You don't have to get women involved in everything that you like. You don't. You don't. You're allowed to have your own interests. It's okay if she knows that you watch wrestling and that you like it, but you don't have to get her involved in everything that you like. I know that's crazy, but it's true. So he continues. If you find any of the fairer sex like that, keep them in your orbit or wife them up. You don't have to marry a wrestling fan just because you're a wrestling fan. You can just be a wrestling fan. And then maybe she'll go to the shows with you. Just not care, just go because you're going. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some things that she's going to be interested in. And you just go because she wants to be there. And then, your relationship will be just fine. He says, back to the subject she and I met at the local bar near the Delta Center for some deserved pre-gaming. He tried to get her drunk. He figured that's going to get her all loosed up and loosey-goosey and warmed up, okay? He said, I thought this would be the best since WWE is a whole different ballpark than going to the local indie show. As we entered, the show was getting underway. And while some of you know what happened last night, this will be November 23rd SmackDown, so before Thanksgiving. All right, he says, I mostly observed her response, knowing she prefers UFC to WWE, as she delved into MMA for a portion of her life. This would be a hard sell. During the first 2 hours, she said to me after a handful of matches with a smile, this is bullshit. Why don't they just submit them right then and there? Huh. Yeah, because it's a show, honey. See, you tried to force this thing on her, and this is an open rejection of that thing, right? If she knew anything about pro wrestling, especially if she went to an indie show, which is kind of strange, she would go to an indie show and then still not understand how wrestling works, then why is she going to indie shows? That doesn't make sense. She already knows the answer to that question, right? Let's continue. I thought of trying to explain the psychology of a well-done match and how a quick finish versus drawing out the match with a submission can make the difference. But I thought better of it since that would come dangerously close to mansplaining. I can hear her vagina drying up from 2 months ago. I just hear, if that's what's in your brain, man, you ain't never gonna get that ass. You ain't never gonna get that ass. If you are afraid to explain things to people because, oh my God, I don't want to be a mansplainer, you're never going to be able to handle a relationship with a woman. You're going to constantly have to explain things to broads. All right. And then if she's really the right kind of chick, and this is she's a bartender, she's hanging out all day, she watches UFC, all this kind of stuff, you can probably explain to her the difference between a real fight and a pro wrestling fight, but she should already know that because she goes to indie shows. So it might just be she's trying to engage you in conversation. And you're like, I don't want to mansplain. Oh, what do I do? You sit here biting your fingernails about this thing. All right. What? Oh, it's such mewling horseshit. You're weak. You're weak. I don't think, if this doesn't end with you getting laid, it's a waste of my time. But I'm pretty sure at this point, it does not end with you getting laid. All right. So he says, I've seen male customers try to cross her when she was bartending, and I saw firsthand how those fools were crippled emotionally and mentally. So I let her be and gave a shrug. Oh my God. Ugh. He just crossed his legs and shrunk. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure why things aren't working out the way that you would like, honey. Get your bitch ass. What are you doing? What is you doing? You're doing, this is a poor accounting for yourself. Let's continue. During a pin attempt by LA Knight versus Santos Escobar, she wondered, why do they always hook the leg when they pin Tommy? Is that so they can't escape? Oh, so you're going to mansplain a pin, right? Saying yes or no, it's she got to figure it out on her own because, mansplaining it all. So she figured it out on her own. You apply pressure to the shoulders. That's the psychology of why you hook the leg, which is also why you shouldn't hook the leg in a lazy way, but we don't want to go into that, okay? But she's engaging in conversation. She's trying to understand this thing. You done dragged her here. It's already been 2 hours. Right? She's still there. She ain't complaining. She must not be drunk enough. But you don't want to be emotionally dusted, so you're just going to be there and play nice. He says, I acknowledge that was part of the case, as it could be part of the psychology of the match. And she says again, then why not submit them? Man, would you please, what kind of girlfriend do you have that she doesn't understand this is a show? Is she like, Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy? They are not real wrestling. They're punching each other. Wrestling punches? What is that? What is that about? You mean you're a boxer? Where's the box? Come on, man. Just quit being dumb. I would not have put this in for public consumption. I can tell you that much. He continues by saying she did make a point. I mean, WWE and UFC are part of TKO, as I mentioned to her during our pregame session, so maybe that might happen down the road. What does that have to do with the people in the match not working the match the way she thinks it would work? She should be listening to like Joe Rogan or something like that, which, she probably does, and you are like, I don't know, Othello or some shit, So he says, but that is a ramble for another time. Other thoughts myself and her noticed as I jotted them down were, hearing the pop as Paul Heyman came out was equally matched as CM Punk came out for the save. Again, the Delta Center is among the noisiest venues in America, which once reached 110 decibels. Why do I care about this? What does this have to do with picking up chicks? Nakamura's music had a cool death metal vibe, and I pointed out he was becoming more goth in his transformation. I pointed out a sign that said Salt Yeet City during the Jey Uso versus Jacob Fatu match, and which led to her asking, why is Yeet a thing? Even I had trouble explaining that. Well, it should have been easy to explain. He won a championship, he was drunk with his friend, and he just started saying, Yeet. And then other people picked up on it, and now that's what he does. It's his thing. That took, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? Why are you scared to talk to this girl? You brought this girl here all this time, you scared to talk to her. Cody Rhodes coming out to his entrance music and hearing fans sing along was particularly fun. This was a 4-hour show since they were taping in anticipation of the holidays. While I thought WWE kept things going along, I could see her face was feeling the wear of being at such a show, especially if it's your first time going. Yeah, 4 hours of WWE can be brutal. I dig that. She says, there were others, he continues, but I'm doing my best not to get myself and she canceled at this stage in the game. Why would she be getting canceled? You're the idiot. After leaving the Delta Center, I asked her, so what did you think of your first WWE event? It was fun, she replied with a smile, but it's still not real to me. Oh well, can't win them all, but I attempted. So, and that's the end. That's the end of it. She had fun. That's it. That's it. I took her to a wrestling show. She watched it. There was fireworks and music and people sang, and there was some fake fighting going on too. But we sat there and we had a couple of drinks, and I asked her, "Hey, what do you think of your first WWE event?" She was like, "It was fun, but it's still not real to me." It ain't real. This guy's scared of women. You're scared of girls, aren't you? Is this guy 17? That's my question. I don't know. I don't know if he's 17. No, actually, I'm looking at him because there's a picture of him on this site. He has a full beard. He looks a rugged 32, which means that he's probably got a rough bartender with him who's probably got like all kind of bicep tattoos, probably some kind of stuff on the inside of her forearms. And instead of just, chilling and having fun, he was worried about mansplaining and didn't want to get emotionally dusted by this woman. I'm telling you, man, you have to be a normal person in today's world. Stop being abnormal. Stop being abnormal. She just wants to hang out with a normal guy, man. Just have fun at the show. If she doesn't understand something, explain it. It may actually impress her that you are passionate about something, which is very underrated. Is that sometimes women get interested in things if you're interested in them. They might not be interested in them to the same degree, but they may find that there's a charm in you being into something. Okay? And when people like each other, that's kind of how they behave. You know, it's like if you knew a girl who was into, I don't know, books, right? I know plenty of girls who like to read. I'll ask her if she read a book that I haven't read or a book that I have no interest in, just because I want to see if she read it. I want to engage with her and her hobbies. I used to date a girl who was a big fan of Nikki Giovanni. I hate Nikki Giovanni, you know, and I was not shy about my dislike of Nikki Giovanni. But when she told me stories about how she met her and how she felt so good about meeting her, and you know, and all these different things, I would bring it up. Oh, hey, I saw this book in a bookstore. Is this one of the books that you have? Because you might be thinking of it as a gift or something later. We don't have to engage with the same. I'm not reading Nikki Giovanni because she likes it, but I know that she likes it. So if I see a poem or something that Nikki Giovanni wrote, I can say, oh, hey, you know, I heard this poem and I'm not necessarily liking her, but hey, this was pretty good. You know, you engage. That's normal people behavior. When you're trying to, you know, ingratiate yourself to somebody, or you're trying to get somebody into your hobby, you have to show some kind of passion for it. Otherwise, it's just a two ships passing in the night. Oh yeah, I like baseball. Do you watch the games? Not really. Do you know any of the players? No. And then the conversation stops right there. How are you going to develop? You know, and sometimes, you know, you have to figure out what people like. But this girl didn't like WWE, and then you did not get in there and show her your passion for it, or at least that you knew what the fuck you were talking about, and explain to her why it might make sense from the perspective of the way she's trying to view it versus how she's viewing it, right? You're trying to get her where you are. She's never going to be where you are because she doesn't have the same passion for it. But she could at least understand it, right? And this is one of those things where in some of the downtime, in order to keep up the conversation, you would tell her, look, they don't go for submissions and stuff like that. You know, for starters, it's a show, predetermined, you know, in terms of when a guy is going to win and lose. There's even times where, you know, hey, these guys are supposed to go 15 minutes. They're not going to end the match before 15 minutes unless they have to and somebody's hurt or something. You know, or you may even say, you know, when wrestling used to be real back in the, 1900s, guys used to wrestle for 4 hours. Do you want to sit here watching one match for 4 hours? Absolutely not. Even UFC started doing time limits to avoid that kind of thing. Boxing, same thing. You know, like, this is how you can expand your knowledge base, show her that you actually know what the fuck you're talking about, teach her a little bit of something about a hobby that you like, so that she'll feel comfortable. That when eventually the other side starts to happen and she's interested in something that you're not interested in, she can, hey, if I tell him a little bit, he'll get involved. You know, at least he'll know enough to enjoy it a little bit. But you dropped the ball. Again, I said this, if this thing did not end with you getting laid, it was a waste of my time. And clearly, I'm surprised this woman will continue to answer your phone calls.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question as if you worship.